Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be replacing the thermal paste on this laptop here and cleaning out the vent because of the dust build-up. This will be the third time I'm doing this for this particular laptop, so I'll get right to it. Now, before I start, I'll use this so I don't scratch the surface of the laptop. So, reason it's a good idea to always replace the thermal paste, probably about once a year, maybe twice, maybe once every 2 years, is because it tends to dry up, and when it dries up it makes the CPU get hotter, and because of these modern CPUs they tend to throttle down, so you get less power out of them. So you won't notice that there's an actual issue apart from the laptop operating slowly. That's to do as well with the dust build-up on the vent here. Now, unfortunately with laptops, the only way to get to the vent and the CPU is to strip it down, which is what I'm going to do today. So it involves me taking every single screw out in order to get to the CPU and the vent. Now, the best part about this, or the bit I don't like, is the keyboard. That's always the most difficult part. The rest of the laptop is easy to take it apart really. It's just that keyboard that gives me some trouble. We remove the battery and pop this open. Now what I tend to do is I'll take the RAM out and the hard drive and put them to one side, and also the wireless card, which is this one here. You have to strip it completely out in order to get to the CPU. There's no way around it, unfortunately. There's the hard drive, put that to one side, and now let's get the wireless card out. Put that to one side as well. And now the RAM. But before I touch the RAM, I'm going to ground myself. You can ground yourself on a connected PC just by touching any metallic part of the case, and that way you avoid passing any static shock to the RAM, because if you pass any static to these RAM chips, they're dead. So I'm going to put that to one side. Now this particular laptop is an HP laptop, HP Pavilion G6. Okay, so now I've removed these parts, I'm going to remove all the screws. I'll first undo them, and then I've got the fun job of turning it upside down and letting the screws fall out. Oh, that one's come out. Sometimes you can grab them out like this. Got a little jar to keep them in because you don't want to lose any screws. Yeah, I'm going to have to tip that one up. And there's so many screws on this thing that I'm bound to forget one. But we'll see how it goes. Got you. There we go. Magnet's not so strong on this screwdriver, unfortunately. tip that one over. Same with that one. Okay, now this screw here is for the CD-ROM drive, so we're going to take the CD-ROM drive out. Before we can do that, we just need to undo this screw. Over time, I don't know, it tends to stick. See, I haven't opened this up for 1.5 years now. But every time I open, I don't put the screws on too tight when I'm putting it back together, but they always tend to tighten up afterwards. Let's see if I've got any screws here. There's another one here to take out. See if I can do that one again. You can easily lose screws if you have to tip it over to get them out. Okay, now the last screw I'm going to deal with is for the keyboard, and the keyboard one is located here. I've forgotten that one a couple of times. Yeah, I have to tip that over as well. So here goes. Fingers crossed, don't lose any screws. And I'll just have a look to make sure all the screws are out. Yeah. These two didn't want to come out. Now in this situation I'll gently tap it. Oh, that's not working. It's the first time actually, they normally just fall straight out. I guess it knows I'm making a video, so it's going to be as awkward as it can for me. Nope. It looks like they'll have to come out when I open the case up. Well, let's get this CD-ROM drive out. Comes out nice and easily. Easy, shall I say. And now for the most difficult part, the bit I hate the most. Now, in order to open this up, I've got to take this keyboard off, and there's clips that's located on the edge. There's about 4 or 5, actually 5 clips, and you've got to push those clips in, and then you've got to lift the keyboard up at the same time. The way it's built obviously is for a special tool, maybe HP use, where they'll just have a clip, they'll have 5 clips on a handle that would make the job easy. I don't have that. No reason for me to buy that. So what I'm going to do is use a flathead screwdriver. and struggle with it to get the keyboard out. If I'm lucky, this will work first time. This normally takes me about 10-15 minutes to get out, which is why I don't like it. Once you get one edge up, like this side here, once you've got one corner, you can pop it out by running a screwdriver along the edge, which is my method. It's just that initially getting it under there, out like that. And now I'll get my second flat screw and very carefully try and pop these out at the same time. Now you want to be careful you don't put the screwdriver all the way in vertical, because I obviously know this laptop, but for any other laptop you want to exercise extreme caution, because you don't want to damage the cable that connects this keyboard to the motherboard. Otherwise you'll need to buy a new keyboard. To put that one aside there. That's record time. That's the first time I've taken it off this quickly. Yes, practice makes perfect. Now, this is the cable I'm on about. Now to release these cables is quite easy. There's a clip and you just release it and then the cable comes straight out like that. So let me put that to one side. It's pretty dirty. So the dirt manages to get everywhere. And now we've got some more clips that I'll undo. So there's this one here. You just lift it up and the cable pops out. This one you don't touch. Use the screwdriver carefully to get this little pull tag here so I can pull it out. And another one here. Okay, we've got some more screws. 2 more screws and then we can start taking this thing apart. These screws I'm going to put in a different container because I don't want to mix them up. What I would recommend for anyone doing this with a laptop, if it's your first time, draw a diagram out indicating where all the screw points are on a piece of paper. Have that piece of paper somewhere handy, and every time you take the screws out, just put the screws on the points that you've marked on the paper, and that way you won't mix up the screws, end up with a short screw going into a long base, or a long screw going into a short base. So it can be quite frustrating. And now, because the CD-ROM driver's gone, I've now got access to this part here, so I can start unclipping it. Still, this is not a nice bit, because you want to be careful that you don't break the case, because if you snap the case, then yeah, you have to buy a new case as well. It should come off nice and easy, but as you're doing this, beware, all the weight now on this laptop is on the screen, and so it wants to fall back. So what you want to do is make sure you keep hold of the bottom base, because it's this top bit we're taking off. And remember, there's 2 screws on here still, so I want to be nice and gentle with it, just like that. Now I'm still holding on to it because, like I said, of the weight. I'll put that to one side. Okay. Now there's a screw on here somewhere that needs to be removed, unless it's one of the screws. No, actually this one's alright. Okay, so remove that clip there. We've got some more cables to unplug. This one here, just pull up. Obviously hold the corner. If you see this corner here, there's where the screw goes in, there's a point which is safe to touch, and then that pops up just like so. And we've got this tape here that needs to be taken up. Clip that. And then we just remove this as well. Helps if you've got long nails, which I don't at the moment. Okay. Now, just before I go any further, I'm going to ground myself again. It's always a good idea to regularly ground yourself, so you don't pass any static that you have onto the motherboard, because if the motherboard's dead, then you might as well get a new laptop. It's cheaper to get a new laptop. So this is the most critical part of the computer, or the laptop, is the motherboard. Always forget one. So many cables on these things. You would think they'd make it more simple nowadays. And there we go. That's removed. So what I'm going to do now is put the laptop, the rest of it, to one side. And oh, there's the 2 screws. I didn't want to come out earlier. Now this is a anti-static bag. It's completely safe to use this to put the motherboard on. You could also put it straight on the wood, but I prefer to keep it on the plastic. So we'll switch her over. Okay. So this is the fan, the vent here for the fan. What tends to happen is inside that there'll be a layer of dust. It depends on how long it's been cleaned for, but the longer you leave it, the more dust builds up in there, until eventually there's no way for the air to pass out. And you'll know about this because the laptop will warn you that it's going to overheat and it can't switch on. So what we need to do now is, in order to get this off, we need to take the heatsink off the CPU. It doesn't matter in what order you take the screws off, because we're taking it off. So I'm going to start from this corner here, and plus if you notice, always avoid, if you can, touching any of these components on here, because you don't want to get the oil that's on your finger in there. So it's safe to hold this part here and to keep it stable. I know I'm probably waffling on a bit. It is my first video on doing this. I normally just prefer to get stuck into it straight away. We're there nearly. And there we go. Now what I'm going to do is give you a close-up look at this. And so, as we can see, the thermal paste I put on there before is almost dried up. It looks hardly there now, and it's the same on the heatsink. This is why it's important to always do this once a year. I've left it a little bit longer in this case, which isn't a major issue, because as I said, if it gets too hot, it throttles down. It just loses the speed. So you lose performance, but it doesn't damage the CPU. On older computers, it would permanently damage them, and because it wouldn't throttle down if it got too hot, so you would be left with a CPU that's no longer functioning. So what I'm going to do now, I should have got this. I should have prepared this sooner, because I need something to wipe off the old thermal paste. So I'll be right back. And it's good old toilet tissue. Doesn't hurt really. Anything will do just to clean off the excess thermal paste. And we'll do the same to the heatsink. And now we'll leave that for the moment, because the next part involves taking this off, and as you can see, I'll show you. You can already see the dust. And there's more of that inside. Now you have to unclip these in order to get inside it. There's no reason. It did have tiny screws before, about 2 of them, well actually 3 tiny screws. But to be honest, there's no real need for it because it's inside here. So I did leave them out intentionally. And actually, it's not so bad this time. Last time I opened it up, it was a thick layer of dust just running along the edge here, with only this bit free. But I don't know if you can see through there. Probably won't be able to see much, but a blur. But there is dust inside the vent, so I'm going to blow that out. Probably doing this for nothing, but you can see now it's clean. I'll just take see, these are connected on a magnet, so you can just lift it out. It doesn't want to let you lift it out. Get that a good little clean there. Pop it back in. This is a replacement fan I bought because the fan that came with the laptop itself, after a year it started to malfunction and the fan stopped because the bearings start to wear out over time. This one's not doing so bad. It cost me about £7 for a replacement, which isn't bad as well. Well, apart from the fact that you've got to open it up like this, which involves a lot of work. So let's pop this back in. Now, if I was doing this with anyone else's computer, every single screw would go back where it came from. So obviously there would be 3 screws on here, so I would take them out, put them in a separate container, and then put them back on. But because it's my laptop, I'm not concerned about it too much. It's quite safe. So now it's time for the thermal paste. I'm using Cooler Master, which is a pretty good thermal paste. See, the other issue as well, when you buy a new laptop, they put some cheap thermal paste on which doesn't last too long. So what you want to do really is after 6 months you want to replace the thermal paste, because that stuff will be already gone. And this is why it's bad if you get a display model off a laptop. You're going to need to do the thermal paste as soon as you buy it, because it's basically going to be dried up already. I've just grounded myself again. Now you only need a tiny bit of thermal paste on here. A little dot. That'll do. A little bit more than I wanted to put on there, but we can easily fix that. Okay, and now I'm going to use this nice little card here. Some people can use credit cards if they wish. just to spread it out. This can be a bit difficult. Do need to put a little bit more on there. See, what some people tend to do is they'll put a little dot in the middle of it, leave it as it is, and then use the force of the heat sink squashing against the CPU to spread it out. But that's not really reliable. You could end up with uneven. It could look like that if you did it without spreading it out. So we want to make sure that we spread it out. And so every part of that CPU there is covered, because the last thing we want to do is miss a bit, because that means that it just dries up quicker, and obviously you'll have performance issues later on. So let's get to this. This thermal paste is a bit sticky. The one I used last time is Cooler Master, but it's a different brand of Cooler Master. This one doesn't seem to be seems to be more sticky than anything else. I've got some more thermal paste on that side. Seem to be helping at all. Really should have stuck to the other one. I don't like this thermal paste. See, it becomes sticky. It sticks to itself. It sticks to the card, and so I now have to use a little bit more thermal paste than I would like to. But you learn from these things. And so it's so sticky that it wants to go everywhere. Nice. I'm going to start again with the other thermal paste. This stuff is not nice. and this is the other one I've got, actually High Performance. Let's see, they call it High Performance. It does the same as any of the other thermal pastes. It's just that if you get the cheap branded ones, they tend to dry up quicker, whereas these ones last a little bit more longer. And so put a little dot in the middle here. Just want a small pea-shaped size amount on here. It's a little bit more, it's not so sticky as the other one, so it's easier to work with. Say easier to work with. This, I hate this bit as well because it's not always as easy, but I'll show you the results in a minute. But this one's spreading a lot more easy because it's more liquidy than the other one. The other one's more like a gel, and so I have already done it just like that. Taking the excess as well. So, let's get you a close-up look at that. And there we go. Nicely spread out, which is how it should be. You want it to cover every single part of that CPU. If it misses a spot, it'll just it'll cause heat to build up there, and eventually it won't be as effective at keeping it cool. It just means you'll have to replace it sooner. And you obviously don't want to be opening it up and doing this unless you really need to. So now we've got the thermal paste on the CPU. Let's put the heat sink back on the fan. Just give that another clean again. Now when we're putting the screws back on, we'll go from one corner to the other. I won't tighten it up straight away. I just want it to be on there first, so it doesn't go anywhere. This corner again. Now when you're tightening screws, you want to make sure it's tight but not too tight. Now with this screwdriver it's quite small, so it won't let me tighten it up any more than it should do because of the way the screw's designed. But you can easily thread the screw, and if you do this, it means a new motherboard. And quite possibly the fan as well, but the fans are cheaper. So I'm just making sure that's all tight. And there we go. And we're just the most important bit here, plugging the fan back in. Fan plugs in there. So I can get it the right way. All these cables can be quite fiddly. don't force it in. If it doesn't go in, just have a look and make sure you got it the right way around, like that. It's easy to make a mistake with these type of cables because they don't mark them as easy as the other cables, obviously, because not many people are supposed to open these up. And there we go, that's in there nicely. Just make sure that's down like that. And now I'll ground myself again, make sure I get rid of any static that's built up in me. And now we can put it back together again. It helps if I hold it the right way. You can hold it from the edge like that, it's pretty safe. You can actually, with these modern motherboards, you can actually touch the components, but it's just good practice not to. It helps if you have it the right way around as well, which means upside down. It always comes off easier than it goes back in. There we go. It's time to plug everything back in again. Start with this corner here. And when putting these cables back in, you want to make sure that the black connector is upright, because it's got to be open, and then it's just a matter of pushing it in there. When you've got it in, you push the black clip down and just give it a check to make sure it's in there. Yep, nice and nicely done in there. I'll give you a close-up look of how it connects into the slot. And so this is what I'm talking about here. It's like a black tab, and it goes up, that's its locked position, and it goes up in its open position. Now I can't really get a good can't get it in focus that good, but you can see what I mean. So let's put it together. I'm just having a look to make sure that everything is connected, because I don't want to really take this apart again just to put a cable back in. So now it's time to put the front cover on, but before I do that, I'm just going to give it a quick clean. we go. Now this just should pop straight back into place quite easy, but just before you do that you want to make sure that all of these cables here are accessible. I didn't really need to take this one off in the corner here. I don't know why they left a gap for you to do it. I suppose in case you do forget. But in case you do forget, but it's okay. Now you don't want to force anything because you don't want to break it. You just want to make sure it's in position before you put any pressure on it. And now it's time to put these two screws back in, which should hold it together for the time being until we can turn it over and put the rest of the screws back in. And once again, you don't want to over tighten these screws. They don't need to be super tight. You want it snug. The benefit with this screwdriver is it won't allow me to over tighten it. It will just turn itself off after because it's too small. That's why I prefer using a smaller screwdriver. If you use a bigger screwdriver, there's more chance of you over tightening it and breaking the thread, and that'll be a bad thing. So it's time to put the rest of these cables in. This is the awkward one because just bend it down like that. Don't rush, just take it easy and you'll be fine with it. Another thing, don't get stressed over anything. If you find yourself getting stressed, something's not going back right, take 5 minutes break. There's no rush. The important thing is that you do things right and you don't break anything and you don't forget to put the right cables back in, which I'm sure many people have done. Easy thing to do. The first time I did this, this is actually a second laptop. I've got another laptop which is identical to this, but the first time I did this one I did forget to put that fan cable back in, which I showed you earlier, and I had to open the bloody thing up again and reconnect it, so it's no fun. Now we'll just grab the keyboard. So we can put the keyboard back in now. Put it the right way up. Well, you can't put it any other way up, so everything fits in a certain way, so it's quite easy to see where things go. It's not like the 90s and the early 2000s where everything looked the same, so you had to know what cables went where, and I'm talking about desktops, not laptops. Laptops are always easier to sort of deal with well, to know where cables go and where things connect. And these cables, they're safe to touch. They are a bit flimsy at times though, so you want to be careful you don't damage them, because if you do damage one of these cables then That's it. You'll have to get a new keyboard. Now this one usually goes in easy. Ah, there we go. Just make sure that's in there. And just pop it back into place. Don't push it too hard in, you just want it so that it clips in. And then I'll just make sure that I can see the clips. And then that part's done. So we can flip it over and start to put everything else back in again. Now I'm going to ground myself again because I can feel some static building up in me. So when your ears start to stand up. Okay. It never hurts to be over cautious. Saying that, I did get told off once at a workplace for being over cautious. What can you do about that? I'd rather be over cautious than not cautious at all. And that's the wireless card connected, and I'm going to be even more overcautious because I'm touching the RAM. Ten years ago I made the mistake of touching RAM without grounding myself and destroyed it. I had to throw those RAM chips out. Now the way these go in, as you can see, you just at an angle you push them in and then it just pops down, and the clips on the side catch it and hold it in. So it's pretty easy to deal with RAM. The hard drive doesn't get screwed in, funny enough. That's why it's not really an issue for me to leave this unscrewed, because things can be once it's in the case, it's pretty snug. Let's put the CD drive back in. Now I made the mistake of mixing these screws up, but I know what I'm looking for, and it's not that complicated to take a screw out and put another one in. If the need arises, and once again you just want it snug, you don't want to over tighten them. Just the other screw, yep, for the keyboard. Even though, to be honest, the keyboard doesn't need to be screwed in, because as you can see, it's quite awkward to take off. So not over tightening that one either, so that's okay. Got a feeling there's one more screw I missed. Yeah, which was this corner here. Helps to have a good memory. Even though I'll probably embarrass myself later looking back on this and saying, no, it shouldn't have gone in there. This was a refurbished laptop as well from HP. So actually what I do remember is there was never a screw in this bit here. There is a space for a screw, but I guess the people at HP made a mistake and forgot to put that one in. An easy thing to do. Doesn't make a difference really. As long as one screw's in place, or enough screws are there to hold everything in place, then you're okay. Now, to put this back on, you got to sort of bend it so that it curves. You've got both corners going down, like that. And there we go, we're ready to tighten these screws back up. Really could do with a new camera. This one keeps switching itself off, overheating. Camera's about 7 years old now. It's a Canon IXS 100 IS, if anyone's interested. Canon does pretty good cameras. I've always used Canon. If you could see the state of the camera itself, it looks pretty beaten. It looks like it's ready for the bin, but it does a pretty good job. Aesthetics isn't really that important. As long as it does the job it's meant to do. That's creaky floorboards. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, and this is the moment I realise that I've got two screws in the wrong place. Take these two out. Whoever designed the laptop did a pretty good job. You can put long screws in there. It leaves a gap, so if you put a longer screw it will go in without causing any issue, and it will take the short screws as well, so that's not an issue on this laptop. No, not an issue apart from that one. I believe I need one long screw in the middle. That's what I mean about making sure you don't mix your screws up, so that you can save a lot of time and effort. Because now I've got to search for, if this one doesn't fit now, I've got to search for a long screw. Or in this case I could just leave it out, because to be honest it's not an issue for me to leave one of the screws off. So that one's gone in okay. Let's see. Okay, let's try this one down here. That screw doesn't want to come out, so we'll leave that one in there. It's about too much. See, if I was dealing with someone else's laptop, I would make sure to make a list, or put each screw into its own section, so that we can put it back together easily. I've got a feeling this small screw belongs to just the one in here. So I'm going to open this one back up again. Let's see, I believe it was for the keyboard. Either the keyboard or the CD-ROM. No, not a keyboard. I'll try the CD-ROM. If not, I'll leave that one out, because it's not going to hurt anything. Yep, it was the CD-ROM. Now, if you're doing this for the first time, it will be slightly nervous when you've finally put it all back together again and go to turn it on, because you always get that feeling, or you get that feeling that maybe it's not going to work. Natural feeling to have when you've never done anything before. I can assure you this is completely okay. it's unlikely that the motherboard's broken or anything else is broken from opening it up and doing anything like this, unless you make the mistake of not grounding yourself. So you should always make sure that you've grounded yourself when touching any of the chips, the RAM or the motherboard, most critical parts. If you forget to ground yourself, there is a chance that the computer won't turn back on again, and then that'll be a dead laptop. So we're ready to switch her back on. Let's see if this, there we go, put that to one side. Okay, touch wood. Some nice cool air coming out of the vent this time. That's what I like to see. And so what I'm going to do now is just check the temperature. Before I applied the thermal paste, it was reaching around 40 to 45 degrees C on idle. It's sort of okay at that temperature. It's not going to hurt it. It will just hurt the performance of the laptop. So now, to run this program once the computer starts. And let's just give you a close look at that. So what we're running at now is 35 to 36 degrees C, if you can see that. I'm trying to get a good angle. Well, I apologise if you can't see it, but we've got 35 degrees C now, so the thermal paste is doing its job and keeping the computer cool. And that's it. That's done now. So that's the process of replacing the thermal paste and reapplying new thermal paste and cleaning the vent. This is why I don't like laptops, because they're the most awkward things to deal with because of the size. Everything's compacted into a small space, and so you can't really help but take everything apart to get to what you want to get to. Whereas with a desktop, this will be done within 5 minutes. It'd be a matter of taking the case lid off, taking the heat sink off, cleaning the CPU, reapplying the paste, putting it all back together again. Yeah, total 5 minutes. Whereas this is taken up to an hour to an hour and a half to do. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. Goodbye.